Hello, and welcome to the D4 Mighty Dave Show. I am your host, Dave Ball, also known as Blinson on Reddit and at Blinson1 on Twitter. And with me, I am only joined by one of the Daves today, and that is Dave Gove, who's also known as LA Kings Dave on Reddit and Twitter. How are you doing, Dave?
We are only the D2 tonight, which means we're the shitty one of the D2s.
I
I
don't know, that,
mean,
that movie did give us the awesomeness that is Gunnar Stahl, so
and the Knuckle Puck.
yeah, that is true. Give us that. And the full Bash Brothers, come on.
Ugh, that movie was still the worst of the bunch, in my opinion.
Honestly, I thought the third one was worse.
Fair enough. I could see either one.
Yeah.
Sad news, by the way. The rink used in the third movie is being torn down.
Is it really?
Yep, it got abandoned, and they're tearing it down.
That is so sad. It's actually really sad. That's like part of our childhood a little bit.
Well, these things happen. Life moves on.
Life cannot move on from my childhood. That is not
I
allowed.
don't believe in nostalgia. I don't believe in the past. Oh, wait. I love history. Shit.
You do have your own segment on the Mighty Ninja Show, so.
I'm not sentimental though, and I don't have anything that I hold on to really in life.
Yeah.
So
It's still slightly sad because you never want hockey rinks to be abandoned, also, though.
that's true. But if they build a bigger, better one, then maybe so.
Yeah, that's true. If it does get bigger and better. I thought that one was part of a school. I guess it was.
Everybody likes it when it gets bigger and better.
Yeah. Innuendo right there.
Starting strong.
Yes, yes. Well, we have a bunch of stuff to talk about. We haven't even covered any of the coaching changes that have ever happened recently. All the way
Ever.
back to a couple weeks ago when Philadelphia went off the board and hired Dave Hextall from the UND.
Well, that's up to you really to talk about because I don't know much about NCAA hockey to be perfectly honest. I know he had a good record as a coach there, but I don't think he ever won a title as
No, he
far as I
never won
know.
a title. I was actually,
And
yeah, go ahead.
kind of surprised a lot of people. You don't really see many coaches come out of nowhere, especially if they're not part of the good old boys club. I would say John Cooper in Tampa Bay is an exception to that, where he's a guy that did play some hockey growing up, but was a lawyer before he turned to, or at least went to law school before he turned to coaching. And aside from him, and now I can't really think of any other coaches in the league right now where I would say that,
I think he was really the only one. I mean,
yeah,
Hextall was a was a player, but he never went outside the International Hockey League. I think it was the IHL back when that
yeah,
was a thing. I think that's the farthest he ever got. But he had a very successful program in U of D where he coached 11 seasons, and all 11 seasons he went to the NCAA playoffs. And in 11 of those times, 7 of them went to the Frozen Four. So he was very successful, but he never won anything. I was actually kind of hoping Abe and Ari would both be here because they watch more NCAA than I do, but they're not here. So, but
well,
he
here's the thing.
what?
Your team, I think, is trying to move in a different direction.
Mm-hmm.
Here's an outsider's view, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you got Ron Hextall as your GM now, who
Yes.
has put in a different change of mentality and is looking to go younger, develop
Mm-hmm.
an actual core of people, keep the guys that are strong like Claude Giroux
Yeah.
and Voracek and things like that, and really retool this whole team. So I think he envisions a lot of younger guys coming up, and to get a coach that's used to dealing with younger players and having to develop kids, then this might not be a bad thing. It might not be the end result. I mean, maybe he might take you to a Stanley Cup, but I kind of feel like this is almost an intermediate coach to where he's saying, this guy's going to help us shape our future. If he doesn't end up working out, though, at least he'll help our players grow, the younger players.
That's exactly why we all think he hired him because you're right. He does coach a lot of young players with the NCAA, and I mean, it was a very random. No one really ever saw him leaving, the NCAA where he was extremely successful. But I'm very excited for it because we don't know what he is. He's not one of the old boys club that the Flyers usually went to hire for these type of situations. Like we had Craig Berube, he was a former player. We had Bill Barber coach us before. it's definitely a different type of situation that we're used to, and I am extremely excited for it because he will hopefully teach the young guys coming up, because we do have a lot of young defensemen coming up, which is great for us because our defense is terrible. So I'm very excited for it. I cannot wait till this season to start.
Now, the Kings did something similar a few years ago when, before Daryl Sutter, they hired Terry Murray. And Terry Murray has had a lot of success in getting younger players to develop and play well.
He's actually our AHL coach, and he might be joining Hextall's staff to coach in the NHL. So
that would be a good move, in my opinion. He is great at developing kids and getting on a player-right system. I think he never really connected to the older veterans, and the Kings brought in a guy once the younger kids developed, and you had guys like Kopitar and Doughty playing the right system. It's unfortunate for Terry Murray that it worked out the way it did here, but I don't think that his impact on the Kings can be understated. And I feel like a lot of the casual fans will never realize how much he did for the team before he got fired and replaced midseason.
I mean, Murray is considered one of the best teaching coaches in the game right now. So, and plus, if he does come up and join the system, that's NHL, like coaching experience behind the bench, which we don't really have much right now because we have Ian LePerriere behind the bench, who will be starting his technically third year of coaching ever as one of our assistants, and then Gord Murphy, who has never been an NHL coach, I don't think.
Though Ian LePerriere is a former King, and I have his jersey still.
He is one of my favorite Flyers because of what he did during the 2010 season and playoffs. He played with us for 1 year, but he cemented the love of all Flyers fans. But he was always that type of player, though.
I think he won fan favor with the Kings 3 or 4 years in a row.
Yeah, he's always one of those players that just you want to root for him just because he was willing to lay everything out on the ice and give everything to the team, which, as shown on Flyers, when he took 2 different pucks to the face.
In the face.
The second one, he came back from, even though it ended his career, which he probably didn't help when he did come back, but still, he gave a lot to the team, and everybody loved him for it.
Yeah, he was the same player in Los Angeles. He just went out there and gave 100% all the time.
Yeah, you can't hate those type of players, so.
No. Well, I think that you and I are both in agreement that we think this might end up being a good move for your guys.
Yeah, I'm so
excited. As far as another good move, I think, is Edmonton getting Todd McLellan from he was recently fired, obviously, from San Jose.
Yeah, that's definitely. They've done a lot this offseason to kind of stop being a joke. Hiring the Boston GM, whose name I totally forget right now.
Peter Chiarelli?
Yeah, Peter Chiarelli. He is going to definitely help out that organization because he's not part of the old boys club that they had there. And then bringing in Todd McLellan, that is, a coach that has won a cup as an assistant in Detroit, has coached a very good Sharks team, even though they did have a lot of problems in the playoffs. That I'm not sure how much that can be put on him, or if there is much, but still, they have changed a lot this offseason for the better, and it's going to be very interesting to see kind of how they go this year, especially since they now have Connor McDavid.
Yes, they're projected to draft Connor McDavid. An interesting side note to this whole thing is that Todd McLellan was the coach of Team Canada in the World Championship this year. And he met with Sidney Crosby and talked to him about being a phenom coming in at 18, like McDavid's going to be, and what the adjustment will take and things like that. And he also had Crosby playing on the line with Taylor Hall and Jordan Eberle, which tore it up at the championship where they won a gold medal. So I think he's already got his 2 best players on board with him as far as what he wants from them. And Taylor Hall had nothing but good things to say about the World Championship, and
he said something along the lines of how he wasn't used to winning and it felt like amazing. Didn't he recently?
It was something along those lines. Yeah, it was like where he just – it'd been a while since he knew what it felt like to win all the time, and not, so you have a coach that has his players probably a little bit excited, and you have a general manager who's a little bit of a wild card, and you don't know if he's going to trade away any of your guys, but at the same time, you know that he comes in with a winning pedigree. So
he did build basically the huge, like Boston Bruins that we had that won a cup a couple years ago. That was his team that he built. So it's going to be interesting to see kind of the Oilers stop being the laughing stock of the NHL. And they got so lucky with winning that first overall pick.
I think that they're going to be a lot scarier next season, but they still obviously need goaltending and defense.
Yeah, there's still a lot to be built there, but they're on the right track now. They're definitely on the right track.
Yep.
And hopefully, with this new GM, there won't be a new coach every season now.
No, you got to give a guy like him
time.
Yeah, and he did well with younger players in San Jose as well. You saw guys like Logan Couture, even Melker Karlsson last season, Tomas Hertl 2 years ago, or last season, I guess. Just making these younger players step up and fill the roles that they need to fill. So,
and he was respected by veterans, it seemed also.
Yep.
So, and everyone considered it the stupidest move San Jose ever did, firing him instead of their GM. So, yeah, that's going to be very interesting to see. We'll go with Buffalo next, with Balsma being hired there. And with the Penguins apparently seeking compensation for it in the form of a third-round pick, which I think is utter bullshit. It is taking advantage of a loophole rule and seeking compensation for a coach that you fired. It's utter BS.
Yeah, I don't really agree with that, but it is what it is, and I don't think a third-round pick's that big of a deal to hire a guy that you think can help you, especially a guy who's won a Stanley Cup. And while a lot of people say, well, he won that Stanley Cup with a lot of players that came in before him, whatever. Yes, maybe he lost the Pittsburgh locker room, but I think anybody that reaches that level as young as you do has talent. And in any field that you're in, you're bound to learn from your mistakes, hopefully, if you're a professional and you get to this level. And getting fired will wake anybody up. So he knows he has a different task now. He's not going into a contender. He's not going to a team that has guys like Crosby and Malkin. He's going to a team that he knows he needs to build. So it's a different challenge for him. And it'll be interesting to see what he does with it, because this is only his second coaching gig. We've never seen him build a team.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. And plus, in Pittsburgh, he had a lot of younger guys on his team, so he's obviously going to be good with younger guys, which I think will help Buffalo out a lot. And if he did learn from mistakes, hopefully he'll start to make corrections mid-game to really help teach his team, which is really all you can want from him at this point, to help teach Buffalo and all their young guys that they have coming in. Plus, they do have a very good player coming in Jack Eichel. Unless for some reason the Oilers don't draft McDavid, but Eichel should be coming to Buffalo, and he's going to be a very good player for them. And hopefully, Disco Dan there could help them out.
Watching Jack Eichel was the top center for the U.S. team in the World Championship this year. The U.S. team in the World Championship this year had the youngest squad there.
They did a hell of a lot better than anybody thought they would.
Yeah, and they had the youngest team. And they won a bronze medal on international ice, and the U.S. is notoriously bad playing on international ice, which is bigger.
Yeah.
And he just got progressively better. He started the championship a little rough, but then got better as it went and ended up being not the top player on the team, but he was on the top line. And for a kid coming out of NCAA to be on the top line in a world championship on Team USA is saying a lot. So
definitely saying a lot. So it's very exciting to see how he's going to turn out. Next, we will go with DeBoer with the Sharks. Peter DeBoer gets signed by the Sharks. I'm not sure how this is going to end out. He was an average coach for the Devils. He was, in my opinion, he had a very boring system.
I disagree.
Mm.
I'm sorry. Like, I know he's in your division, and maybe I'm speaking without seeing as much of him as other people have. But he took a team to the finals in 2002 that was probably outclassed in every series they played except for the first round against Florida Panthers, which they won, I think, in 7 games, if I remember correctly. And then he lost his 2 best players in Parise and Kovalchuk. Martin Brodeur went to shit.
I mean 2012? 2002.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
I was very confused for a second.
2012.
Okay.
And then last season, not this season, but last season, his team went 0-13 in shootouts. Now, I don't know how much of that you can put on your coach, but if he had won only half of those, his team would have made the playoffs again with a terrible team last year. So, to me, it kind of says, you know what, he was coaching a very poor team in New Jersey. Let's be honest. New Jersey's going to be terrible again next year. The only reason they even hung in half the year this year is because their goalie played pretty well.
Yeah, Schneider stole so many games for them.
So I'll be interested to see what he does with a lot of talent again, because the only time that we really saw him with any kind of talent, he took his team to the finals. So I think the jury's still out on him too.
Honestly, I just find him a very boring coach personally, but that's because he does the trap system, but that may just be because the team he had in the Devils, so he might change it up for the Sharks. And hopefully he does, because their system is so boring. It's so boring to watch them play.
I've heard a lot of hockey people say he's done really well in the past with other teams, and obviously he's got to the NHL level for a reason. And once again, he's fairly young, so see what he can do with guys like Joe Thornton and Pavelski and Marleau. And if he can't cut it next season, then we'll see how true his coaching skills are.
Okay. Works for me. So, I mean, it's not my division. He's the farthest away from us as possible, so it's not really up to me. So I can't really tell. You know more about how the Sharks players work anyway. So we'll see how it all works. Next, we'll go with the Wings maybe hiring Jeff Blashill, because Babcock went to Toronto. Kind of covering them both, I guess.
Yeah, the prevailing theory is that the Red Wings are going to hire. They're the only team right now without a head coach, but their minor league coach is currently in the AHL Western Conference Finals. So the Grand Rapids Griffins are currently playing Utica. I expect after the AHL playoffs are done for them, he'll probably be announced as the new Red Wings head coach.
Yeah.
He not only has he had a good season this year, he led them to the championship a couple years ago, the Grand Rapids Griffins. So a lot of people feel that he's been groomed to be the next coach of the Red Wings. And obviously Ken Holland, the GM, likes him already. I wouldn't be surprised if he takes that spot and they're just waiting for him to play out this year in the AHL.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised either. I mean, they've constantly told people they can't talk to him when they need new coaches. They constantly said, no, you're not allowed to talk to him. We're saving him, because he's trained so much talent that they have there. A lot of their talent has gone through him. He's taught them, and they've had a pretty good team for a long time. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I think recently that has a lot to do with him and his teaching style is down in the AHL and helping players get ready. So hopefully he can transition over.
He's bought into the Red Wings system of develop, and don't rush kids. And obviously they're not rushing the coach either. He's been there long enough to where they know what he's about. And like you said, a lot of the guys that are now playing for the Red Wings have played with him before, and the Red Wings hold on to a lot of their players who come through their system because they have a good track record and they make the playoffs every year. So I would be really surprised if the Red Wings hired somebody else, to be honest. And if they do, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, people aren't I don't know what his contract is off the top of my head, but I wouldn't be surprised if maybe he would request going somewhere else if they don't hire him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely expected for him to go there. And finally, Toronto getting the Mike Babcock sweepstakes and landing him.
I think
good.
Here's this is interesting on a lot of levels. He left obviously a really successful organization, but it's hard to blame anybody to take the kind of money he got. He's going to be paid almost twice as much as any other coach in the league.
What, $10 million per year or something is he getting?
Well, it's $6 million per year over the course of the contract. However, it's front loaded, so he is going to get a lot of money at the start. So even if he gets fired a couple years in, he's still making the bulk of his money early on.
Yeah.
He's going to a team with a lot of history that's changed its organization from top to bottom. Well, not to bottom, because the players still, obviously, they have some issues there.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, the Toronto Marlies weren't too bad this year, their AHL team. They lost, actually, to Grand Rapids in a 7-game series. But they have some guys coming up, and they obviously have some good guys like Phil Kessel and Dion Phaneuf already. And I'd be surprised to see what he does there. I think as a coach, he is looking for a new challenge maybe, and obviously more money. It's really hard to turn down that kind of money. It's hard to blame anybody and say, you know what, I wouldn't take that kind of money. Everybody would take that kind of money. Like, I'm sorry.
Yeah. But didn't he say like there was other offers that were bigger? Or that could just be him.
Well, I think Buffalo was going to offer him just as much money.
I mean, Pagula's pockets are insanely deep.
So I think that the money was kind of a toss-up between him going to the Sabres or Toronto, and he picked Toronto. And if he can turn that team into a Stanley Cup winner, he will be a legend.
Yeah.
And that's not even hyperbole.
I mean, he will.
The last coach to lead them to championships was Punch Imlach back in the 60s, and he's still a legend in Toronto. So
yeah, they haven't even gone to a final since they've last won. So
yeah, 67.
If he can even do that, he will be a legend, probably for them.
Yes. So it's not really surprising to me. I mean, he wants to cement himself as one of the greatest coaches ever if he were to do that.
Mm.
At the way the parity is these days, I'm trying to think right now how many coaches have led multiple teams to a Stanley Cup. And off the top of my head, I think there's only a couple, if one at all.
How many
I should know this, but I don't. So, yeah, I mean, that would be another thing. If he can lead a team other than Detroit to the Stanley Cup Finals, he'd be a very elite company.
Oh, yeah, I mean, he's kind of already an elite company with how much he's won. But
he's one of the top 10 winningest coaches of all time already.
Yeah, I mean,
as far as winning percentage, he's going to eventually move into the upper echelon as far as total wins. Mm-hmm. To me, it's not that surprising that he took this, especially with the changes in management they've had.
I mean, they got rid of the Dave Nonis in April, so they still have a vacant general manager position. Who, hopefully, when they bring somebody in, it can definitely help them out a lot, and definitely change up this team. Which it seems like they've just committed to a full rebuild, so the new GM coming in should hopefully start taking effect with that. I just wonder who they're going to hire as a GM.
I know. I don't know.
Who's technically still out there right now?
I know that rumor is speculated, and this is somebody that was speculated before, but the Kings offered him money to not do it, and that's the Kings' head of scouting, Mike Fuda, who is based out of Toronto, I believe.
Okay.
And Tim Lewicki, who used to be at the Kings, is still technically part of Toronto's organization. So that would be interesting. I don't know what the Kings are going to do as far as that's concerned, or if they would seek compensation for something like that. But there's a couple other interesting situations still out there, too, besides just their GM. The New Jersey Devils, obviously, are
They just-
still technically with Adam Oates and Scott Stevens. We don't know if that's going to change because they got a new GM.
Mm-hmm. So kind of see, their new GM Ray Shero staying in a division and heading to the Devils, which I think it could help. If he can start somehow learning to draft players, it can definitely help for them. He knows how to trade, but drafting is kind of not a great thing he can do. The team that he had in Pittsburgh that won the cup, they were all drafted really before he showed up. And ever since, he hasn't really had the best track record of drafting, which might kind of hurt the Devils a little bit.
Dave, you still there?
Yeah. Did you not hear anything I just said?
No. Oh, my shit cut off for a second.
Oh.
Sorry. Did you hear me say fuck?
No, actually, I didn't until that moment.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, anyway.
I was just talking about Ray Shero.
Yeah, no, that's fine. And
I said that his drafting is not that great, and hopefully he can learn to draft with the Devils because they need that.
Agreed.
Because that was his biggest weak point, as I have said, but you didn't hear.
So now that we've gone over management and coaching changes, do you think there's any other changes? Obviously, St. Louis was the only other question mark, but they said Ken Hitchcock's getting a 1-year deal. I think if he doesn't succeed, if he doesn't at least take them to the Stanley Cup final, I think he's gone.
Yeah. Or at least past the first round, maybe.
Even then, I still don't think so.
I see him staying.
I think if they don't get past the first round, the coach and GM are gone.
Mm-hmm.
If they don't get to the finals, I think the coach is gone.
Okay. Because they've had a good team for a while. It's just they haven't had the push. I mean, how am I going to put this? They don't have that big superstar to help push them past the first round, but they have a
Tarasenko's turning into a superstar.
That is true. They do have Tarasenko now. But he's still very young. He's 23, is it, I think?
He was drafted in 2010. I was actually at that draft.
So, yeah, like 23-ish, 24, something like that.
Because the Kings drafted somebody 1 pick before him.
And how did that turn out?
He's still in the AHL. Thank you.
Don't worry. We didn't even have a 2010 pick, I don't think. No, we didn't have a 2010 pick. Our first pick was 2011 with Scott Lawton. Because we traded for Chris Pronger. Gave up 2 first rounds for that. But
well, moving on.
To, I guess we'll kind of slip in. Well, first I asked a question to Twitter.
Okay.
Asking what they thought about all the coaching changes. And we have Paul here saying he liked the DeBoer change, but saying Babcock made 0 sense, and he hates Balsma. But I'm not sure. I think Babcock makes sense, personally. He was a fan of DeBoer, which if you're on your like it. We have Buffs Buffet. He said everything's kind of been going all right, but he's really shocked that Hitchcock has kept St. Louis has kept Hitchcock. Cozy says he hates that the worst coaching pickup was DeBoer, and the riskiest is Babcock, but he doesn't know what to think of Balsma. And Blake says Hitchcock was the worst thing to happen.
Yeah, a lot of people in St. Louis aren't too happy about it. I get it.
Okay.
I totally get it.
So
I think St. Louis, that's going to be a really tricky
right.
situation next year. They have a ton of talent, but if he can't put it together, or if their GM doesn't make a move to get somebody, I love a lot of their players. I don't necessarily think, like you said, I think Tarasenko is a superstar.
But he's not
going to be
yet.
And aside from that, it's kind of iffy. They have a lot of great defensemen.
Yeah, that they do have a lot.
Their goaltending is good. I wouldn't say it's great, but they need somebody else. And if they can get somebody at the trade deadline or even before then at the draft, maybe grab a guy. If they make a play, I don't know how much cap room they have off the top of my head. I can check.
I will look.
But if they brought in a guy, I mean, this free agency class is weak. I think that we're going to lose Justin Williams to somebody because and they're going to overpay him because there aren't a lot of other great wingers out there right now. Let's see.
Top of the wingers. Let's see.
Right now they have 13 million in cap room, but they're losing guys like Marcel Goc, Olli Jokinen, and Vladimir Tarasenko is a restricted free agent, so you have to assume he's going to get a fat contract.
Yeah. Definitely.
So,
they're actually losing a fair bit of defensemen, but it seems like they have 5 signed. So who knows how they keep there? They might, and they need a backup goalie. And if they want to keep Jake Allen, he's probably going to get a good bit of money.
True.
Yeah.
I don't know. They're kind of they're the biggest question mark in the offseason, in my opinion. I think most other teams have a lot of things figured out as far as where they need to go. The St. Louis Blues, they're on the verge between being a superstar contender or being on the verge of being knocked out of the playoffs like the Kings were this year, if they can't figure stuff out. And if they just stop believing in Hitchcock. If he can't connect with the players, which it seemed like he was having trouble through this season.
Yeah. So there was a few other questions that Ari submitted into us. She couldn't be here tonight, but she says, if you can work in any front office in the league, which one would you choose?
I'm totally biased, but I would say the Kings.
I would honestly love to work for the Flyers too. I think it'd be fun. Kind of see all the behind-the-scenes things.
Well, let's take our Homer hats off then, because
this would be.
If I was going to work in any office besides the Kings, I would say I would want to do the Detroit Red Wings, because Ken Holland and that organization have been so successful for so long, and they seem to really develop people well and just treat everybody with a lot of respect. So,
I honestly probably would want to go to Toronto. I feel like it would be fun up there. Kind of seeing Brendan Shanahan go through and basically fix everything would be very interesting and fun to watch.
Yeah, going to a tire fire would be interesting.
And plus, I can ride the glory of it all the way up to the beginning, all the way up to the end. Just ride it. Just ride the wave.
A couple of other interesting ones, I think, would be Nashville with Dave Poulin, because that's a non-traditional market that's successful right now, and they're not a big market, but he seems to always do pretty well. And it would be kind of cool to watch him work with what he's given. And then, like you said, I mean, Toronto with the biggest media would be cool. Montreal would be cool with the fans that they have and the history that they have.
But you also have to learn to speak French there. So that's going to be a big barrier. You don't already speak French.
That's true.
I think another organization would be fun because they're such a young team. It would be the Florida Panthers would be fun, in my opinion.
Yeah. It'd also be interesting because of the fan base there. I mean, I obviously grew up in a fan base that's non-traditional, but I mean, they're really, really...
They're building something there that should be really nice when it finally... Oh,
yeah.
Predictions for the 2 Game 7s.
Well, since it's still 0-0, I mean, I originally picked Tampa Bay to win this series, but I think Game 7 you got to go with Lundqvist. So
I'm gonna go with Lightning here. I feel like Stamkos is gonna turn it on.
I hope he does. And I'm sticking with the Ducks in Game 7.
I'm going with the Hawks, so we are completely on opposite ends.
That's fine. I totally get it. I mean, the Hawks are great. I mean, that series has been amazing. Honestly, I mean, both these series have been really good.
Yeah.
I think that if Game 7 of the Ducks series goes to an overtime or two, like a lot of these other games have, I think you would say that it might end up being better than the Kings-Blackhawks series last season.
You know, these two have definitely been at least for the Rangers and Lightning, they're not traditionally rivals, but they have played great against each other and giving a little bit of edge to it.
Well, I mean, they have a lot of familiarity with each other too, with all the players between them that have.
They do have quite a few bit of players.
So let's talk about this really quick, since we're talking about these series, and we weren't here last week. I think Tampa Bay really. There's rumors, obviously, that Tampa Bay's sick, like literally sick.
I know Braden
the whole
Coburn
team's
was
come
had
in
flu during a game.
Yeah. So Tampa Bay, though, in my opinion, has probably outplayed New York in at least 4 of these games, maybe 5 of these games of the 6 so far.
Yeah.
And New York's been able to get by. Lundqvist won them 1 game, let's be honest.
Yeah.
And he might have lost them 1 game as well, that game that went to overtime when they lost 6-5. So,
yeah.
But still, Tampa Bay has outshot and outplayed New York the majority of the periods in this series, and yet they still are tied, obviously. So,
I mean, Lundqvist is a great goaltender. Except for 1 game, you can say he's definitely brought it.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of the series have gone to a lot of goal scoring. So
that is another thing that's interesting, is how much goal scoring has happened in these two, and people have talked about this and how. I think I was talking to somebody else about this week, but I kind of feel like the third periods in these games have been exceptionally high scoring, and I think a lot of that has to do in the playoffs. You shorten your bench, and a lot of your best players are playing in those third periods.
Yeah. Yeah, all the players that aren't really hitting it kind of have their minutes trail off, while their good players do start to play a lot. I'm looking through the scores for this series, and the first game was only 2-1, so it was really low scoring there. Second game, it was the 6-5 game, and actually Tampa scored the 3 goals in the second period there, but the Rangers scored 2 in the third. Next game, it was 5-1 by the Rangers, with it being two second period goals and 2 third period goals for the Rangers. Honestly, it doesn't look like except for game 6, where the Rangers scored 5 in 1 period in the third period. It wasn't really a third period frenzy. It's kind of been balanced, honestly.
Well, I know that the Ducks series has been a lot of third period scoring. I've definitely been watching the Ducks series closer, probably because I get home from work later, so it's easier for me to watch the Western Conference.
Yeah.
But the third periods in the Ducks-Blackhawks series have been kind of insane at times.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to watch that, because by the third period, it's like 11 o'clock Eastern time, and I'm going to bed. Because I am old and I sleep early. But
Well,
yeah, third period has been kind of wild for you guys, and a lot of the games have gone to OT.
Yes,
It's amazing. The Ducks actually lost their first regulation game, playoff game for this year. For Game 6. The rest of the time they've only lost in overtime, and that's kind of amazing. That they're in the third round and took them the third round to lose in regulation. Though they might have something more to say about the teams they faced. Because, they faced Winnipeg, who they swept at the beginning. Then they faced the Flames, who they only lost to once.
Well, just to put it into perspective, in the 6 games played so far, there's been 14 third period goals between Ducks and Blackhawks. One of those series, obviously, the Ducks scored 3 goals in 37 seconds, which is the second fastest 3 goals ever in the playoffs. And I know that this stat's already been thrown around, but the other time that happened was the Toronto Maple Leafs, who I think scored it in 21 seconds, 27 seconds, something like that. And the team that did that actually had both coaches, Bruce Boudreau and Joel Quenneville, on that team.
Wow. Look where they are now.
Well, both coaches in that series do not have very good Game 7 records either. I know Joel Quenneville in Chicago have been obviously more successful than Bruce Boudreau's ever been, but it's going to be interesting because The Ducks have the home ice, obviously.
Yeah.
But Chicago has a better track record in recent years, so
You can never count out Bruce Boudreau though, and the Ducks. Well, you can't really count on Corey Perry and what he can do, what he can bring. Corey Perry and Ryan Getzlaf are gonna have a monstrous Game 7 probably, and it really all depend on those two how well the Ducks do.
So here's a trivia question for you.
Oh, great! I don't know these things.
I was looking at the current coaching because we've been talking about coaching a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Only one of the current coaches in the NHL has a career record with ties for his team. Do you know which coach that is? Obviously, ties got phased out with the shootout. Several coaches have coached in the league when there were ties before, but only one is currently still with his team from when they had ties. And he is now the longest-serving coach on his team, I think.
Who has never changed coach? I'm trying to think. I don't know. Not sure. Who is it?
Michel Therrien.
Really? I was actually thinking him, but I thought he was more of a recent. Oh, he was assistant coach, wasn't he?
No, he coached them, I think, before.
Really? He coached them before, then left, then came back?
Yeah.
Oh. I did not know that.
Yeah. He's the only coach that has a record with his team that includes ties.
That's weird.
He had 23 ties with Montreal back in the day.
By the way, Ari says you hate her personally for your picks.
I don't. I'm just sticking with what I originally picked, so I mean, we can all go and look at the R Hockey NHL.com bracket picks, and you can look at my picks. I picked the Rangers and Ducks from the very beginning to go to the finals, so I have not changed my pick on that as far as this goes. So
the only one I've changed is the Rangers. I have since gone with Lightning, but I am kind of still split on it a little bit. Who is going to actually win? I want the Lightning to win, but I feel like the Rangers are going to win, so I went with who I want to win.
That's fine. I honestly
picked Rangers.
Since I don't have anything writing on this, really, I realistically would want the Lightning to win. I think that it would be more fun to see them in the finals, personally. But I just think the Rangers are going to win this Game 7. So,
yeah, I mean, personally, the 4 teams left were the 4 teams I picked to be left. So my bracket's actually looking pretty good right now, even though it kind of got beat up along the way with Vancouver messing up and the Islanders messing up a little bit. I remember those are the 2 teams I kind of messed up with. But,
well, my thing when picking the Ducks is just matchups. I mean, when you're the home team, you can match up. And at this point, when you're at a Game 7, I think that's huge. And I'm picking the home team in both of these because of that. I think that at this point, I think both teams have played almost 8 games already.
Yeah, they've played
realistically, Duncan Keith has been a horse, and he's
like 2
ridiculous.
Games personally.
Yeah, I know. I understand. He's great. I'm not taking anything away from him, but at some point, does he get tired? I mean, if we don't have a third defensive line that can contribute, I don't know how much he's got left in the tank for a Game 7, especially when you can match up whoever you want against him at whatever time. I felt from the beginning of this series when I predicted the Ducks that they had more depth top to bottom. So, and Chicago has kind of proven my point in that they're basically not playing their third defensive pairing, and their fourth line is not getting a ton of minutes, and the Ducks continue to roll 3 and 4 lines. So, yes, Chicago probably has a better top 6. I'm not taking that away from them. But if the Ducks can get Chicago to separate their lines again and match up, there's no way Getzlaf is going to play as badly in Game 7 as he did in Game 6, where he admittedly said he was horrible. And Ryan Kesler, if he continues to play well,
especially
I
against
will
GT.
call their top six as a wash and say that the Ducks have a better third and fourth third and fourth lines and a better third defensive line. So
I mean, JVR is JVR. TVR is coming back, so their third pairing has picked it up a little bit.
and you're counting on a guy that's been. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but
compared to
you're
Chemo
counting
Timonen
on Trevor Van Riemsdyk to be your hero. I mean, he might be, but I just really feel like the Ducks are just a better team top to bottom in a Game 7 right now as far as skill goes, and they have the home ice. So,
I mean, compared to Chemo Timonen, TVR is a better upgrade. Chemo Timonen playing, 5 minutes, 6 minutes a night? He's basically there just to be in the locker room, it seems, at this point. If he's even, taking part in the locker room.
yeah.
But, yeah, I went with my heart on the Hawks pick. I want Chemo to win it all. But, yeah, the Ducks do honestly seem a very scary team, and they might most likely edge it out.
I still think whoever wins that series will win the Stanley Cup.
Mm-hmm. So who knows if Lundqvist gets in, if he can, find the next level. Because this is
I think Matt
Lundqvist's
Zuccarello is practicing again, but he's in non-contact jersey.
Mm-hmm.
I heard an interesting thing brought up by, it was either Greg Wyshynski or Jeff Merrick, I forget. I was listening to their podcast. But Chicago, I knew this going into the playoffs, but Chicago has the smallest team left in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Anaheim had the biggest, and they hit the shit out of Chicago.
Yeah.
And they were just saying that even if Chicago gets through this series, how much do they have left in the tank for the finals? And I kind of feel the same way. It's like I think that if Chicago made it to the finals, they might get beat by New York. And I think that if Anaheim makes it, they'll beat either team. Mm-hmm. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, it will be. It's going to be a very interesting matchup no matter who plays who. It's going to be fun. All four teams are all very exciting teams to watch. So
yes.
It's going to be Lundqvist. I personally think this is Lundqvist's last chance for the Rangers to win it all.
I do not. I'm going to disagree with you. I think Martin St. Louis might be gone after this season. I don't know. But I think that with Alain Vigneault, who's a great coach, Henrik Lundqvist, if he still maintains his level next season, the defense that they have and the depth that they have and the money that they have, I would think that they're still a contender next season.
Mm-hmm. My personal feeling is Rick Nash is not getting any better in the playoffs. So I feel like it's going to start, once St. Louis leaves, it's going to take a big spiral downwards if they won't really have that big name player to step up in the playoffs anymore.
I disagree. I mean, Martin St. Louis has, 2 goals when they were scored in the same game this playoffs?
That's true.
And Rick Nash has actually upped his game as this playoffs has gone along.
He is putting up a lot of assists. I have to give him that.
Well, he started scoring again, too.
Most of his goals
the one player I'm most concerned about on the Rangers next season is Derek Brassard. And that's because he is, I think, in his 9th or 10th season. He's having a career year. But if he regresses, then I don't know. Because they need secondary scoring. And he's been that for them. He's been maybe their best player in the playoffs, aside from Lundqvist. And if he regresses, then I don't know what happens next season.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
they kind of sold out for this season. I mean, they got rid of Anthony Duclair, who is their maybe top prospect.
Yeah.
For Keith Yandel. And Yandel has not been terrible, but I kind of feel like they sold out for this season.
He wasn't really who they thought he was when he would bring him in. They thought he was going to be a lot better than he has been.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, so who knows how it's going to be. Yeah, so we gotten quite a few questions coming in.
Do it.
What is your dream / nightmare Stanley Cup Finals matchup?
I don't really have a nightmare in the East. I don't really care about either team enough. I want whoever wins the East to win the Cup, personally. For me, the nightmare matchup has already happened in the West. I didn't want the Ducks or Blackhawks to be here. So it's really hard. As a Kings fan, obviously the Ducks are a rival. Mm-hmm. And living in Anaheim, I don't want to hear about the Ducks winning Stanley Cup, but also the Blackhawks fans winning a third cup during this era when the Kings only have 2 would also be really annoying for me. So for me, I guess Blackhawks Tampa Bay would probably be my dreaded matchup because I think that automatically the Blackhawks would win that series. So,
and that mine personally would be, it's not possible to happen right now, but I would hate to have a Penguins Capitals Eastern Conference final. Personally, I would hate that. I hate the Penguins.
Oh, well, if we're talking all time, yes, yeah. I would not want a Sharks versus Ducks conference final.
I was kind of going with this as an all-time type of situation.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I'm personally fine with the matchups we have. Any of the matchups to really happen for what's going on right now. I don't have I don't have like hatred of any of the 4 teams left. Well, I do hate the Rangers a little bit, but not really enough to make me want them to lose massively. I have respect enough for them to be okay with them winning. I guess the best way to put it.
I don't really have any hate for any teams in the Eastern Conference, to be honest.
Same with me in the West. I don't really hate any of you guys.
I mean, the only fan base that probably really gets me in the East is maybe Toronto's, and that's only because they hold on to shit for forever.
Yeah.
And they're still bitter about 93, and the fact that they're bitter at us for a referee not calling a high stick on Wayne Gretzky. It's like, why are you not bitter at the ref? Like, I don't get that. New Jersey fans aren't big fans of us. New York's not a fan of us this year.
Well, it's because you beat their 2 teams.
Yeah, and it's like, but I have nobody to hate in the East because nobody in the East has done anything to us aside from Montreal in 93. But it's saying that I hate Montreal fans is not true, or their team. I mean, I love watching PK Subban and Carey Price.
Yeah,
it's. I don't really have anybody to hate in the East. I don't really hate teams in general. I hate players.
I had a team.
But I mean, like, even though Ari will give me shit for saying this, as I've said before, I'm a hockey fan first and a Kings fan second, and that's one reason why it's hard for me to pick against the Ducks in this series, because I feel living here and watching the game grow, how much better the game would grow here if the Ducks won a championship again. Watching the Ducks turn the high school programs, which I played in before they won a cup in 2007, when I could only play roller hockey as a club team, to now where the Ducks are sponsoring 40-plus high schools in ice hockey. It's like,
really cool.
There's an immediate impact to teams in non-traditional markets winning. So it's really hard for me as a lover of the hockey as a game to say, you know what, man, it would really suck if the Ducks won a championship, just because I'd hear a lot of shit talk from fans. I don't care. Like, shit talk is shit talk. Like, it doesn't mean anything to me. So I'll hate players. Like, yeah, Corey Perry is a douchebag. But it doesn't mean that I hate Ducks fans. I mean, I go to Ducks games all the time living in Anaheim. One of my best friends is a season ticket holder. I mean, I go to games all the time, and because I like the game, to me, Kings fans have been treated like shit for the last 3 years since we started winning. And I understand we don't have a very likable team. I get that. That's fine. You can hate our team. I don't really understand why you hate fans when you're a fan of hockey yourself. I just don't get that mentality. I understand douchebag fans. Like, we have guys on Reddit that are Kings fans, like Pen to Paper, who is a complete douchebag. But you can't help that certain people are certain ways. I don't really hate teams.
I disliked the Chicago Blackhawks in the West, but I kind of can't really dislike them right now. I have a rooting interest in them, so I'm kind of ignoring my dislike of them because of what they did to us in 2010, and how I'm still.
But yeah, you're rooting for them now because you want Chemo Team in to win a championship.
Yeah, so I'm able to put it aside. Much as I dislike having to put it aside and wear their flair. Do you have a favorite hockey-related music? Another one for Paul, or music that gets you excited to play hockey or watch it?
Wait, what was the question?
Do you have a favorite like hockey-related music?
Music.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, the Zamboni song is great, but it sucks that Gary Glitter's a pedophile because Rock and Roll Part 2 was so great growing up.
Mm-hmm.
Aside from that, I guess maybe just because I'm a Kings fan, and they don't even play this anymore, but they used to always play Gary Newman's I Love LA after every goal.
Mm-hmm.
And then after 2012, when we changed our jerseys, they started doing the My Chemical Romance Black Parade song. So I guess those... Yeah.
They really?
Mm-hmm. Well, they don't play that after goal songs, but that became like part of the like... So it's like, it's songs that I relate to as far as hockey goes. It's not necessarily something that... It'll pump me up because I remember the actions that went with it. Like 2012 was the Black Parade.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also have This Is LA, which is another song that's played for Kings. And, you know, songs like that remind me of good times with the team, I guess.
Mm-hmm. There's a band called the Hexstalls. They're actually really fun to listen to. They have two songs. I Don't Want to Be a New York Rangers fan, and I bred this beard for Slaughter. I love those songs.
There's another there's a song by, I think it's Goldfinger, called Wayne Gretzky.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like one of the lyrics is something like Wayne Gretzky, the only man I'd sleep with, or something like that.
There's a few songs that are written about the Flyers that I just love. I mean, obviously, you can never hate the Moves Like Yager song. That's
true.
Amazing song. What other songs have there been? There's a song called Briere, Betts, and Pronger, based around the 2010 finals that we had, because we had Blair Betts, Daniel Briere, and Pronger on our team. So someone wrote a song about the three of them. There's the Hartnell Down song. That was amazing.
There's the remake of Every Day I'm Shuffling with Every Day I'm Bufflin'.
Yes.
That was clever.
There's another song. I can't think of it right now, though. I just had it, but then I started talking about the other songs, and I lost it. But there's a bunch of songs that are great for hockey. But can we agree the worst song is Chelsea Dagger?
Yes. And I don't even say that as somebody that like is saying this because of the Blackhawks. I honestly, I don't get the love for that song at all.
It's a really good pump up song for after a goal scored.
I disagree. I think that song's terrible, and I really don't say that just because I don't necessarily like the Blackhawks. I'm saying that just because I really don't like that song. And people are always like, "Oh, it's because you hate." It's like, no, it's really not that. Like, I just never have liked that song.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, for hockey reasons, there's always the Kerncraft 4000. There, 400 by Zombie Nation.
Yeah. There was a song. It was a remix of the song called "The Fire," called "The Flyers," and it was a house band that's on one of the late night shows. They played it at the 2012 Winter Classic when it came to Philly.
Oh, well, obviously, okay. I'm guessing Paul is asking this question because he's a Carolina / he still loves the Hartford logo, but the Brass Bonanza is the most classic hockey song.
That is a very classic.
And that reminds me of NHL 94, maybe even 95 too, but the Blues used to always play When the Saints Go Marching In.
Hmm.
I don't even know why, but they would always do, "Oh, when the Saints, oh, when the Saints, oh, when the Saints go marching." But they changed it to blues, I think. So when the Blues go marching in,
Hmm.
so I always remember that from there.
The band's called The Roots. That's what I was thinking of. They're from Philadelphia, and they
The
have
Roots,
yeah, from Jimmy Fallon.
yeah.
They played during the 2012 Winter Classic, and they remixed a song called "The Flyer," called it "The Flyers."
Oh, you know who else is a big lover of hockey? That's um, a band is Dropkick
Dropkick
Murphys.
Murphys, yeah, from
Yes, with
Boston.
Boston.
I know they
Yeah,
stopped a concert to watch a playoff game one time.
yeah.
I
So
remember that. It was during the year they won the cup.
shipping up to Boston always reminds me of Boston sports too. So
Hmm. I mean, they are massive Boston fans. And how did I know you were going to talk about them as soon as you started talking?
what?
As soon as you started saying something, I'm like, he's going to say the Dropkick Murphys, and then you did. I knew
Yeah,
it. But yeah, they are definitely.
but they're huge
big
Boston fans though. So respect to
Yeah.
them.
It's not a real hockey song, but the Flyers play "God Bless America" before every playoff game, basically with Kate Smith's version of it, singing with Lauren Hart, and that is honestly one of my favorite things to watch. Their duet of it. When you
There
have
are a few good anthem traditions.
Mhm.
Obviously, Chicago cheering throughout. Dallas, when they do the Star Spangled Banner, they always cheer stars.
Mhm.
I know that Buffalo, even if there's no Canadian team playing because they're so close to Canada, always plays the Canadian national anthem with the U.S. national anthem.
Yeah.
Locally, Anaheim, their consistent singer is called Dawn Wright, and she does probably like 99% of their games. And so every time they do the Star Spangled Banner, when they say Dawn, like whole sections will cheer Dawn while they do it. So
the Capitals scream red, I think. When the Rockets red glare, they scream red because that's one of their colors.
nice, yeah.
Yeah, but there's actually a lot of interesting things. I mean, you have the Chicago screaming during the entire national anthem, which is very different than what you normally see. You normally see people being very quiet and respectful, kind of singing along with it, but they're just screaming the entire time. But yeah. Doesn't seem to be any other questions that we can answer. We talked about the playoffs. Is there anything else you wanted to cover?
Um,
Kind of hit everything.
Well, you go to a lot of AHL games as I do, or as I follow. Next year, hopefully, I'll go to some AHL games since they will have an AHL West division.
Oh yeah, you guys are getting a whole new division set up there, aren't you?
Yes, we are. And I am excited because the Manchester Monarchs, who are the Kings affiliate, have swept the Hartford Wolfpack and are going to the finals. And obviously, we talked about Grand Rapids and Utica. Utica already going. They're currently going to Game 4 right now, and Utica's up 2-1. So I'm pretty excited about the AHL playoffs right now. I know that not a lot of our people listen and follow that, but that's going to be pretty exciting. And like I said, I'm excited for next season and seeing the AHL. Are you
getting any type of season tickets for that?
Probably not, because Ontario is still 40-minute drive for me.
Oh, okay.
So
it's not like where it's
Ontario is inland from where I'm at, and it's still a big area. Actually, they're taking over. So obviously you go NHL, AHL, ECHL, and the ECHL team was the Ontario Reign, which is also a King affiliate.
Okay.
And they're moving to Manchester and becoming an ECHL team there, and then the Manchester team is moving to Ontario and becoming the Ontario Reign, but they're going to be an AHL team now.
Okay.
And actually, though, Ontario was I think they were the highest drawing ECHL team last year. So they still draw well here. Part of that probably had to do with the Kings doing well recently, and also the fact that Andrei Kopitar's brother was playing for them. But now that they have AHL and San Diego's getting a team again, so that'll be exciting. They're going to get the Gulls, which is going to be the Ducks affiliate. So I'll definitely be going to some games. I don't know how many, though. I mean, tickets to those are significantly cheaper, but it should be fun.
Yeah. I mean, I have a lot of fun at my AHL game, but also mine is I can stay at work for another hour and then walk down the street to get to it. So it's not a big out of my way for my thing. And plus, my work pays for my parking because I don't move my car. Because why would I? It's a block down the road. Yeah, so
I think the only other major thing, and I know that we're Americans, so maybe we don't follow this as much, but the Memorial Cup, which is the junior tournament, is wrapping up this weekend.
The Oceanic Ramparts just got eliminated from winning it.
Oh, they got eliminated tonight?
Yeah, they got eliminated yesterday because Samuel Morin won the Flyers.
The Quebec Ramparts, you mean?
Quebec? Is it Quebec?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Was he on Quebec? I mean, yeah, I think he's on Quebec Ramparts. I think. And now I'm kind of questioning what team he's on. But I know whatever team he is on was just eliminated.
Well, now Quebec won last night, so they're into. They beat.
Oceanic? Oceanic, isn't it?
No. Hold on a second.
Let me pull up this.
All right, so Oshawa Generals are in the finals.
Mm-hmm.
The semifinals right now is in the second period, and Kelowna Rockets are beating the Quebec Ramparts 4-1. So it's looking right now like Kelowna Rockets are going to play the Oshawa Generals in the final. And
it was Rimouski Oceanic.
Rimouski, yeah. That's Sidney Crosby's old team.
That was what Samuel Morin was on. They lost to the Ramparts.
He scored last night, though.
Yeah,
he scored a beautiful goal last night, actually.
His goal was amazing.
Yeah, it was actually
such a heavy shot.
Yeah, that was ridiculous. So,
I am so excited for him.
A lot of people felt going into this Kelowna Rockets were probably the favorite, but Oshawa's kind of rolled through this, so we'll see.
Kelowna Rockets, they've lost a pretty big name player they had. Tyrell Goldburn, I think his name is. He's another Flyers prospect, but he had a big injury for them. He was one of their overagers, so he was very important to them.
And the Kelowna Rockets, they have Leon Draisaitl, who's one of the Edmonton guys. So
yeah, he was
should be interesting. I don't really follow junior a lot, but
yeah,
I like watching the Memorial Cup regardless. And you look at these guys and you're watching the games and you're like, that kid's 16. Like, I hate him so much.
Like it's watching the mini NHL, and you're kind of watching to see who you think are going to be the future NHL stars.
Yeah,
because it's one of the things you do. You try to be a fake scout basically when watching it.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, that's how I haven't watched any of the games because I don't get NHL Network where I live, so I haven't had a chance to really watch any of the games, but I've been kind of following.
I've been watching it. Well, I've been watching mostly AHL because, like I said, Manchester's in it. Yeah. And if I can catch AHL, I will, or the CHL, I will. But that's the Kings don't really have anybody in this. They have like one random dude in this tournament, and I don't really follow junior that much. But if you get hockey streams, they do show all the junior games as well. So. Anyway.
Apparently, we were saying the name wrong. It's Rimouski.
Rimouski?
Rimouski.
Okay, yeah, excuse me.
Bus Buffet was yelling.
I just know that that's Sidney Crosby's old team. Aside from that, I don't really know much about them. So
yeah, the only thing I know about them is they have a Samuel.
Because I have a Sidney Crosby Rimouski card.
Oh, I thought you were going to say jersey.
No, I have a Sidney Crosby Rimouski card, and I just know that it's worth a little bit of money. Like, probably not more than like $15. But regardless, I still own a Sidney Crosby Rimouski jersey card. So.
Hey, it's something.
Yeah.
Something not many people have, so. The only cards I own are all Flyers cards that were sent to me during a Secret Santa thing. Yeah, and one Sidney, and it also sent me a Sidney Crosby card because he thought I was going to burn it.
Nice.
And I didn't. Because I'm not into burning things that are shiny.
That's true. Well, next week when we come back again, obviously the Stanley Cup Finals will have started.
Mhm.
You're rooting for Chicago. I'm rooting for whoever wins tonight.
You're rooting for basically not Ducks and not Chicago,
Yep.
not
So,
Western Conference.
do we have any other questions from Twitter tonight?
Not that it looks like.
All right.
So I guess I will do all my ending stuff. This is actually, I think, the shortest show that we've ever had.
We still went an hour though.
Yeah, we still went over an hour, but it's still one of the small, shortest shows because I guess we're not used to 4 people in or talking. And you and Ari do get off in your tangents, but it's always great.
Whatever. I like to. Ari likes to debate, and I don't mind debating with her. So
It's great to listen to. Plus, then you get on your hockey history tangents, which we all love.
I didn't really mention much hockey history tonight because
very sad. Oh, I have a little history base. I have a little question for you. See if you know this because of who the Flyers hired. Who was the last coach to come out of the NCAA?
Oh, that's a good question.
I actually know the answer to this.
Nice. Can you at least give me an era, like 80s, 90s?
80s.
80s.
I think that's when he coached. That's kind of an era that he's most known for, I guess is the best way of putting it.
Nope, I don't know. Well, maybe Herb Brooks.
It's Herb Brooks.
It is? Yes?
Yes, it is.
Wow.
Last coach to come out of the NCAA was Herb Brooks.
Jeez.
Only 3 coaches before Hackstall have come out of the NCAA without any, going to juniors first or the AHL.
Yeah.
Going right into the NHL. He was the last coach to go right into the NHL.
Well, I would not have got that if you haven't given me a clue, but...
Yeah. I thought you were going to get it as soon as I said 80s.
No, I don't. I don't follow NCAA as much as I should probably, but that makes total sense.
I mean, the only reason I knew it was because it was the beat writers were talking about it,
I recently was reading Steve Yzerman's his biography, and they had mentioned because he was drafted in '83, which was shortly after the 1980 U.S. gold medal, and how a lot of American players all of a sudden got noticed, and American hockey all of a sudden took off. And so a lot of players in that 83 draft were highly scouted and things like that. And the biggest was Pat LaFontaine, but number 1 in that draft, who's one of the biggest busts of all time, was Brian Lawton, and he was American too. And it helped push American hockey forward by winning the gold medal then, but it also kind of hurt American draft picks because they weren't necessarily as good as people were rating them, and people were drafting them thinking American hockey was better than it was, which is kind of interesting because obviously a lot of those players that won the gold medal went on to play in the NHL and things like that, but very few actually succeeded for a long time. And the hype train for American hockey took off. So, but yeah, a lot of guys got overvalued because people were thinking American hockey was better than it was.
And they wanted to. Go ahead.
Well, Brian Lawton got drafted by Minnesota because he was a local boy or whatever, but he wasn't as good as people thought he was. But the hype train was like, oh, all of a sudden American hockey's taken off, and we can draft these American guys that'll go to these American cities, and people will be like, oh, we got an American superstar. And really only Pat LaFontaine was, the big name at that time.
Thing about it is a lot of the players that they had on the team were not drafted players who went to college to continue to play hockey. So they were older players who were put into a system that bettered themselves, that took out the best of them. That was the big thing. That, in Miracle, Herb Brooks makes a big, deal about the system he's going to put in place for these players and how they weren't the best players, they were the right players.
Yes.
that is kind of the big thing. No one was really realizing, I guess, at the time that these players weren't great because they were great. They were great because they had the system that made them great.
Yep.
That was kind of what no one really realized, I guess.
But I think now we're seeing, especially when you see, like, the U.S. has won 2 bronze medals in the World Championship in the last 3 years, and
We won a silver.
we
in
went to the bronze.
2010.
We won silver at the not the last
In
Olympics, but the one
2010,
before.
yeah.
We went to the bronze medal game and lost, obviously. But American hockey is definitely better. You see it with guys like Jack Eichel and next year's Austin Matthews, projected #1. So
Yeah.
Patrick Kane, who, in my opinion, by the time he retires, might end up being the greatest American hockey player ever.
Mm-hmm.
Even if he doesn't surpass Mike Modano in points, given the era that he's played in,
Yeah.
I think some people will consider him the greatest American hockey player of all time. So, and you have guys like Tyler Johnson right now with Tampa Bay, and you just it is growing. But yeah, back in the day, kind of got overhyped after those Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess there is a little bit of history tonight.
Yeah, there we go.
All right.
So this has been the Mighty Daves and Ari show. I'm your host, Dave Ball, also known as Flintstone on Reddit and at Flintstone1 on Twitter. With me was LA Kings Dave on Twitter and Reddit. You can find this show and all of our other shows on our website, ourhockeycast.com. You can look on our subreddit, r/rhockeycast. You can go to our YouTube page, which is our hockeycast, and you can talk to us on Twitter if you want to at our hockeycast. And you can also go onto our iTunes page, which is also our hockeycast. So without further ado, good night, everybody.
Take care.